The first thing you should know is this. I had 2 police cars in my driveway, guns drawn at my chest because a woman across the street dialed 911 and told them a big black man was breaking into her neighbor's house. I stood on my own lawn, my hands in the air, my phone recording, and for a second I thought I was going to wake up and find this was all a terrible dream. That's the hook, the part people remember, but the real story is how it started small, how it snowballed, and how one video turned months of harassment into a single undeniable piece of evidence that toppled the person who thought she was untouchable. I'm Alex Johnson. I'm a freelance designer. I paid for this house the hard way, and I thought getting my own front door would mean peace. Maplewood is the kind of street with big oak trees, brick bungalows, and a homeowners association that prints its rules on glossy paper and treats them like scripture. I mean, it smelled like possibility hardwood floors that kind of squeaked like happy secrets, a porch swing that squealed in just the right way, and a kitchen with avocado green linoleum that I intended to rip out and never look back. Then, Linda Baker moved her radar onto me. She's the lady who became the unofficial president of the HOA by being the loudest at every meeting, the kind of woman who carries a clipboard and a moral victory like accessories. She'd stand on her porch with a tiny, yappy dog tucked under one arm, watching anything I did as if it were a crime in progress. At first, it was petty, a pointed, "You're leaving your trash out too long." Note slapped under my windshield wiper typed in all caps with covenant violation and a line number that probably didn't exist. Then it escalated to, "Please be mindful of your property's impact on neighborhood values," left taped to my recycling bin. Those notes read like passive-aggressive poetry, but the weight behind them felt personal. I smiled, waved, introduced myself. "Hey, I'm Alex. I'm the new guy, and Eleanor Gable." Next door brought lemon loaf and told me quietly, "Smile and ignore her. She loves the fight." I tried ignoring it because who wants to be the new neighbor who escalates things? I mowed my lawn, I bought new curtains, I fixed a hinge, and I invited a couple of friends over for a low-key barbecue. That's when Linda's complaints shifted tone. She marched to the fence and screamed about strange people and disrespecting the neighborhood, and for the first time it landed like a hard stone in my gut, the way she said strange people made everyone at the table look at each other like we had all just been reduced to a category. It was small. The incidents mowing direction a trash can left an hour too long, a car that had seen better days, but they piled up and started to rearrange how I used my house. I stopped leaving the front light on at night. I stopped sitting on the porch with my headphones. I stopped having people over in the evenings. The house that was supposed to be my sanctuary started to feel monitored. And it wasn't just inconvenient. It was a slow, corrosive theft of dignity, the assumption that I was not the owner, that I was an intruder in my own property. The moment it crossed from annoying to dangerous was ridiculous small and completely avoidable. I came back from a 3-mile run, hoodie on, sweating keys missing, classic right, locked out of my own house. I went looking for an unlocked window and tried to squeeze in through the little bathroom sash I'd meant to fix. I'm halfway up in a bush, trying not to tumble, when Linda appears at the edge of her lawn phone already in hand, and she screams, "Get away from there. I'm calling the police. He's breaking in." She didn't say it's Alex, or he lives there. She said breaking in, and then she added the part that made my blood run cold. He's a big black man. He looks dangerous. Hearing those words after weeks of being scrutinized was like having all the air pulled out of the neighborhood. It's not that I was surprised that someone could be prejudiced. I've lived long enough to know that, but the speed and the willingness to weaponize it against me right there on my lawn was staggering. I could have shoved it aside. I could have climbed down and walked away. Instead, I did the thing that at the time felt like the only rational choice. I hit record. I stood in the open hands visible phone steady, and I recorded every second her call. Her fingers trembling the way she painted me as a threat with a few choice words, the arrival of the lights and the sirens, the flash of blue and red painting my new mailbox. 2 patrol cars slid to a stop. Officers stepped out, and for a dizzying, terrifying moment, they had their weapons trained on me. The world narrows when a barrel points at your chest. Everything else, the years of work, the mortgage, the lemon loaf from Eleanor, shrinks to that small circle where you stand and breathe and count seconds. I told them calmly, as calm as I could, "I live here. My name is Alex Johnson. My ID is inside. The key is inside." One officer ordered me to the ground. I decided not to do that, not because I was defiant for the sake of it, but because I wasn't going to lie face down on the lawn. I mowed every week like a criminal, not while a woman who had been harassing me got to watch and smirk. I kept my hands up. I kept my voice measured. An older officer walked the scene down, checked the mailbox, verified my name, and the shift changed. Guns, lowered apologies. Awkward, but real. I had footage of it all. I replayed it on my phone until the edges smoothed out like a bruise. The call, her words, the police citation for filing a false report that followed. That was the pivot. For a moment after the sirens left, I felt hollow. I kept thinking maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. The self-doubt creeps in. I asked myself privately late at night with the window open and the neighborhood quiet, did I do something wrong? Am I the problem here? And that was the lowest, the most human part. I almost convinced myself to move to sell and run to take the peaceful option. But then Eleanor slid a scrap of paper into my mailbox with a name and a number. David Henderson, the owner of Linda's Rental. He'd been getting complaints about her for years. She was a tenant, not a homeowner, and if he saw proof, if he saw the video and the police report, he might do something. That little fact, the idea that something outside of me could take this seriously, grounded me. I stopped being ashamed of being visible. I wrote a measured email to Mr. Henderson, attached the video, the police report number, the dated notes she left on my property. Everything. I CC'd the HOA board. I didn't rant. I stated facts calmly, like a record. Less than an hour later, his voice on the phone was flustered and grateful. He promised action. Within 48 hours, there was a notice on Linda's door, a 30-day eviction notice violation of lease terms for filing a false police report and for harassing neighbors. The HOA convened a special meeting when I submitted the footage. They had to. The video was a record of behavior that violated their own code of conduct. I watched through my curtain as professional-looking men taped an envelope to her door, and I felt a relief so physical it made my knees oddly light. The weeks after were a spectacle and a release. Linda raged, of course, petty acts, spraying water at me when I walked by, slamming doors, dramatic phone calls, but the string of notes stopped. The police citation sat like a small, formal sledgehammer on her authority, and neighbors who used to avoid my eye started to say hello. On the day movers arrived, the street was full of people pretending to do yard work, but really watching. She carried boxes out like treasure, shouting instructions to tired movers, and then, in a perfectly comic and somehow poetic moment, her small dog darted into the street. A garbage truck hissed its brakes. The dog bolted through a pristine garden, and the last thread of her dignity unraveled. She stormed to her car, threw the dog in, and left, horns squealing, tires smoking, authority evaporated. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the final act. She was escorted down the street, trailed by cardboard boxes and the absolute silence of someone who's lost their stage. I did not throw a party. I did not dance on the lawn. I opened my front door, breathed in the sag of quiet that had nothing to do with victory dances and everything to do with breathing again. The last image is of Linda holding a piece of paper. She can't take back her face, white with disbelief. The neighborhood breathing a collective sigh, and me still the same person who bought this house the hard way, still someone who wanted nothing more than to sit on his porch and listen to crickets. If there's a single blunt line to leave you with, evidence matters, courage matters, and communities break when people in power hide behind rules to prey on others.